Thank you. And thanks for coming out for a 9 a.m. talk. I think after the party, that's pretty significant, so I appreciate that. So I'm Snyder, and as you heard, I'm the CSO of an internet infrastructure company called Fastly. And one of the things that keeps me up at night is the number of vendors that we use for all areas of the business. And though we work really hard to minimize our risk, I know there will always be some dependencies that we can't avoid. We're all in this together. No one really does anything alone. Even if you're a company that builds the OS, the productivity software, the database software, the cloud platform, you're still trusting the hardware vendor or the chip manufacturer, the firmware, someone. There's always some dependency you can't control. Even companies that look like they kind of do it all still have external dependencies. Google told the Lisa conference in 2013 that they deployed 43,000 Macs. IBM told the Jamf conference last fall that they had 90,000 Macs deployed and planned to be at 100,000 by the end of 2016. Apple needs Intel, Qualcomm, and Samsung for components of their devices. We spend a lot of time securing our own environments: infrastructure, application security, corporate security, policy, but we're still leaning on each other like a bunch of row houses with old wooden support poles. And when a key player falls down, it leaves others vulnerable. The smaller vendors have fewer resources and less to spend on security. They might not even have a security team. They might not have thought past whatever regulations require of them. They might not even be regulated. They might not have given a thought about the security of their own vendors. Small vendors might even think that they're not large enough to be interesting enough to be a target. But if they have a customer who's interesting enough to be a target, then they will be too. Conveniently, all these small vendors post their referenceable customers on their website. So, thinking like an attacker, I wanted to look for smaller companies. Startups are usually fairly resource constrained. And for some reason, everywhere on the internet, they're depicted as rockets. So I kind of went with that theme. Some of you may recognize this one. So let's say you're a hacker, right? We're at a HackerCon. And maybe not even a good one, which I'm sure you all are. Pick a venture firm, just any VC out there, and then go to their portfolio page and pick a portfolio company. I picked, from one of my favorite venture firms, a cloud communications company. And I went to their website, and of course, they have pages and pages of all of their customers. Fantastic. I saw fintech, I saw big media sites, I saw a popular social network. Startups like to list a bunch of customers so that their target customers can see, oh, well, if so-and-so is using it, then maybe it's something I should investigate. It gives them credibility. That's fantastic. It's also great for us in this regard as we are targeting their customers. So look them up on LinkedIn and TechCrunch. Oh, they've got less than 200 employees that I can see on LinkedIn, and doesn't seem to be anyone with a security title of any sort. There's one network engineer that used to work in a security role in a previous position, but no one, as far as I can tell, who's specifically assigned to security in this organization. I look at the open jobs posted on their website, and there's nothing for security roles. I read their security white paper, and it says something along the lines of, we take security very seriously. So you know that's sincere, even though apparently they didn't bother to hire anyone in security. But they worked with a third party to perform a security audit. Oh, okay, fantastic, that could be something. So maybe that's a sophisticated manual inspection of the code they're writing, looking for new vulnerabilities. But maybe it's a security vendor that ran a bunch of tools against their infrastructure and turned out an automated report, and they checked the box and moved on. It could be either of those, right? Or anywhere in between. So I'll check out what technologies they're using. And I'll add those to a list that gets longer over time. And I'll just wait. And since I can do this easily for lots of companies, my list gets pretty big, and eventually something will hit. Eventually, a vulnerability will be found. It'll be posted someplace public. I don't have to do any work. The bug was posted. Someone found the bug for me. And then someone else comes along and writes a proof of concept for me. How convenient. That makes it very easy. And I can opportunistically move in before the patch is deployed, because these organizations without security teams are not going to be able to deploy security fixes as fast as, say, somebody assigned to go beat the drum that, oh, hey, this is really important, we gotta stop everything and go fix this. So I didn't have to do much work in this scenario. I can do it for a lot of companies at once. I don't need my own bugs. I can use my, my position in this small company to compromise their most interesting customers. So in this scenario, it's a communications company, and I'm now privy to the communications that they've got for their fintech customer, that social media, that social network customer, and their media sites. Fantastic. I use this to move up in the world, rinse and repeat. And even with these techniques that have been in use since the 90s, I know I remember it and I was there, I'll still creep my way up to some more interesting positions. At 200 people, they might think that they're flying under the radar, or maybe they're just not ready to make a significant investment in security, but they're interesting to me. But it's not just small companies. Big companies fall down too. In 2011, RSA was compromised by malicious Excel spreadsheets that were sent to employees. And these spreadsheets contained an exploit for Flash, and through the magic of Windows, that was somehow reachable from Excel. The attackers compromised the seeds for the RSA secure ID tokens. And the rest of us didn't get to find out the extent of this hack until Lockheed Martin, a huge defense contractor, was compromised. Fantastic. And OPM was compromised 14 million personnel records, including all the information used for background checks. And the earliest incursion they could identify was made using credentials that were issued to a contractor for Keypoint Government Solutions. And we don't know how the hackers got that credential, but it's kind of interesting that Keypoint announced a breach of their own a few months earlier. And so it's entirely possible that the whole reason that Keypoint was compromised was specifically to target OPM. Lowe's employee information, including current and former drivers for the company, was compromised, including names and addresses and birthdays, social security numbers, driver's license numbers, everything. And it was because they had stored it in an online database from Safety First. Your cloud vendor uses other cloud vendors, I promise you. They host their service or app on someone else's infrastructure. They manage it through another cloud-hosted tool like Better Cloud or New Relic. They authenticate through that service using another cloud service like Okta or Duo. They analyze their data with another cloud-hosted tool like Datadog or BigQuery, Aurora, RDS, Redshift, Elasticsearch. And then they send their logs with sensitive information to some other cloud service like Sumo Logic or Splunk. They include libraries hosted on third-party sites like GitHub or NPM. And sometimes these libraries are developed by small teams or even individuals. Last spring, this code was getting 2.5 million downloads in a month. And the developer decided, this is LeftPad, and it's 11 lines of code, and it's something that, you know, I think almost anyone in here could write if they needed to, but for some reason, the whole internet was using this library. And when the developer decided to unpublish it, thousands of JavaScript apps broke. But what happens if instead of, you know, just deciding he doesn't want it out there anymore and unpublishing it, his laptop gets compromised and somebody pushes an update with an exploit in it? You think he's not browsing the web and reading email and running who knows what on his dev workstation? It's just one person. All these continuously integrated apps keep working, and their tests pass in a few minutes or hours. That code is everywhere because it's not being inspected by a human. Lodash, another JavaScript library, has almost 2 million downloads in a day and almost 43,000 packages that depend on it. And it has 2 contributors. And I'm sure those guys are smart, but are they unfishable? They never put off an OS update until they could get around to making a backup. And it's not about these 2 people, because I don't know them. I'm sure they're smart, and I'm sure they're careful. But we spend all day thinking about this stuff, and most of us have the occasional moment of like, oh, I know I do. The Syrian Electronic Army took over high-profile sites by compromising their dependencies. They took over Twitter accounts for the AP. They compromised the Washington Post using instart logic. They compromised eBay.co.uk, and PayPal by using Mark Monitor. Did you know Target was compromised and the attacker was able to issue rogue Google.com certificates, and 298,000 unique IPs were identified as being victimized by a man-in-the-middle attack. Target got popped by their HVAC vendor. That's like a vendor that you're probably not spending a whole lot of time considering what kind of access they've got to your systems. But Target traced the intrusion back to the network credentials that were issued to their third-party vendor, and the attackers pushed malware to these point-of-sale devices at Target using the credentials that had originated from this HVAC vendor. These dependencies don't even have to be compromised to take your company down. For some critical dependencies, if they're just unavailable, then you're unavailable. Last fall, Dyn, a DNS provider, was attacked with a DDoS, and the whole internet fell apart. I remember this because I was out on leave, and I came back in because I started loading up sites, and one after another, they were unreachable. I was like, uh-oh, something's happening. I need to get back to work. So I came in, and the impacted sites included Amazon.com, CNN, GitHub, Netflix, New York Times, Okta, PayPal, Pinterest, Reddit, Slack, Twitter, Visa, Walgreens, the Wall Street Journal, Yelp. Yeah, that's a good set of high-profile sites. But if your DNS provider goes down and you don't have a secondary setup, that's not unreasonable to expect. But what's less expected is that when DNS goes down, you can't log into critical systems because Okta is down. And your whole organization uses Slack for operations, so now you can't coordinate with your team about it. And then you turn to Twitter to try and connect with your customers, and that's down too. And you can't get information about what's happening because all the media sites that you turn to are also down. And all these cloud companies use each other, so they're all having the same problems as you. So how many other services are positioned like that? Well, Amazon Web Services, just a few weeks ago, a massive AWS outage took out Docker, Trello, GitHub, GitLab, Quora, Medium, Signal, Slack, Imgur, Heroku, Zendesk, Autodesk, Twilio. You might as well just go home. They were down for almost 4 hours. And it's clear we're getting nothing done today. And that was just caused by human error. And there's no avoiding that. So we'll do what we can, right? We'll build in redundancy for availability and make sure that we're able to move quickly between vendors. We'll compartmentalize our data, we'll review our vendors, and encourage them to make choices that meet our security requirements. But we'll still end up having to trust way more vendors than most of us can really get comfortable with. I hate ending talks with doom and gloom. So I spent some time looking for a positive note to end on, and then I remembered who my audience is here. So here it is. Whether you're on offense or defense, we're all going to be employed for a long time.